Great. Welcome to Matrix360's RealLeader series in collaboration with Informa Canada. I'm Chandran Fernando, your host from Matrix360. Just to give you a little insight of Matrix360, we are a talent management and workplace strategy firm that specializes in the commercial real estate and development space across Canada. Part of our purpose is to truly dial up equity, inclusion, and belonging in the workplace while we build the future of the workplace. So I'm really excited today to have a conversation with one of Canada's leaders in commercial real estate, Vanessa Oliver from Regent Street Commercial. She is the principal at Regent Street, and just to give you some insight, Vanessa, about our Real Talk series, is we're looking at the opportunity to highlight a piece of your journey as a leader and trying to pick up some nuggets that are actually going to help influence and shape the next generation of leaders, and also to wake up our current leaders on where they need to pay attention to when it comes to the workplace. So wanted to, kickstart the conversation with you. And, I know it's just only a couple of minutes ago when you kickstarted your career in real estate. What was your career vision when you first started out?
If I'm being honest, I got into this industry by accident. I don't think I even knew what commercial real estate was when I graduated university. I was actually looking to open a creperie and had engaged a commercial real estate broker to help me with that. And over time, he convinced me that I might have some ability in this business, and ended up hiring me. I'm very grateful that happened, and that's where it all began. And I started to help find all sorts of other people in the city, retail locations. And I think when I started my own company, my own brokerage company, after some years at larger brokerages like Cushman and Colliers, my vision was really to collect a group of clients in the retail space and largely in the restaurant space that weren't necessarily the biggest in class players, but I really set a goal to work with best-in-class players. So landlords' first choice coffee operator, landlords' first choice pizza group, landlords' first class, full-service dining restaurant groups. And that's really the vision I had out of the gates just about 9 years ago when I started Regent Street.
So let's talk about Regent Street, the name.
That's an interesting story. Yeah. So I had the idea for the business. I was ready to go out on my own. And at the time, he wasn't my husband then, but he works in investment sales with CB Richard Ellis. And his group had been engaged by the Crown in England to sell a 25% interest in the Crown's portfolio on Regent Street in London. And I was amazed at the information package that they put together. And Regent Street in London is the first street that was known to be thoughtfully merchandised on the retail front. So making sure that the baker wasn't necessarily next to a dress shop, but the baker might be next to the butcher, who might be next to the cheese boutique. And the name resonated with me, and I liked the history behind it. And that's how that came about.
Fabulous story. Wow, that's very, very fascinating.
My husband likes to take credit for it.
Yeah. Great thing. So when was the first time that you realized in your life that you had the power to influence or change the way the industry is progressing? Because you're basically telling a story through community, through your tenants, right? And you're connecting this community.
I don't know that I've ever looked at it that way, but I've always been enthused by the idea of doing a deal somewhere in a city that I've been born and raised in, and having the opportunity to drive by that new restaurant or that new kids' clothing store, and just know that I was a part of bringing that offering to this community, to this neighborhood in Toronto, or this new restaurant in the downtown core for all of these office workers to enjoy. That's always felt good to me. When you're starting out, I was just hoping that my phone would ring and anyone would want to work with me. And so, I started working with a chef in a known restaurant in Toronto. He'd been a chef all his life. He had a wife and 2 young children, and he really wanted to go out on his own and open a restaurant. And he entrusted me with helping him find his first location. And that felt impactful to me that, he went ahead, opened this restaurant, and, his earnings and his livelihood significantly increased by taking that chance. And that was really meaningful to his family, to what he was able to do for his children. And I remember, being able to enjoy feeling really good about being part of that process.
That's amazing. So let's talk about the struggle, right? So when you started 7 years ago, was it 9 years ago?
I started in the industry 17 years
17
ago,
years, okay.
but I started Regent Street, my own brokerage, 9 years ago.
9 years ago. So 9 years ago when you started Regent Street. Were there any struggles, conflicts, or frustrations that you encountered on your journey that got you to this place right now?
I think that there are always going to be struggles, and in whatever you set out to do. I think that it's a competitive industry. I think when you're heading out on your own and starting your own brokerage, there are struggles in getting people to take you seriously, in getting people to trust that you can do as well, if not better, what individuals in larger firms might be able to do. But I don't feel that there were any struggles or challenges that felt like a brick wall and felt like things that I couldn't work through and overcome and address.
So how do you build trust with clients? Like, when you take if you could take us back to that point when you first started in the commercial real estate space and you sat there and you're like, okay, I just left X amount of messages and I'm waiting for that phone to ring or I'm waiting for that email to pop in, and it does. And then you get your first visit and you're out. And then how do you walk into that room and build that trust and that relationship and plant the seeds?
Well, I think that there's no question in brokerage, the business is all about relationships. And in my opinion, trust is one of the most important pillars in creating a successful relationship. And I don't think that the quest to earn that trust is complicated. I think being genuine, being able to be a good listener, I think doing what you say, and I think really taking the time to understand what your client's objectives are and never letting money get in the way of doing what's right. I think that, that's the most important way to build trust.
Amazing. So I call it the opportunity clock. Every morning it goes off, aka the alarm clock, right? So I want to understand for you, what's your opportunity clock that fuels you to wake up every morning and that drives you to continue the amazing work that you do?
There's a lot of things. I know that I'm passionate about what I do, and I'm very grateful for that. I think it's the people I get to work with that get me excited to wake up in the morning. And on the retail side, I'm drawn to entrepreneurs. I am an entrepreneur. That being said, the retailers and the restaurant groups that I work with are gutsier entrepreneurs than I am. They've got to spend a lot more money to execute on their dreams than I do. And I have huge admiration for them because of that. And I take a lot of pride in if I can be a little part in making sure that I get them off on the right foot when they're about to open a new location. It drives me, and being able to surround myself with people who are doers, who are positive thinkers, who want to make a difference in business. It's a really exciting environment to be a part of.
That's amazing. So we're going to shift the conversation a bit. We're going to talk about the demographics in the commercial real estate space. And I'm sure you're fully aware when it comes to the element of diversity and equity and inclusion, at the leadership chain, it's not as balanced as we would like, and we would like it to represent Canada. Because as you know, diversity is our strength. Is the motto of what Canada represents. But when it comes to our commercial real estate and development space, there is an imbalance. And just to give you some insight, 3 years ago, we put together a demographic survey to capture the true demographics of the commercial real estate space across Canada. And what we found out was when it came to gender, at the leadership level, there was an imbalance. There was less than 32% of women in senior leadership positions. Although, when you look at the Canadian demographics, there's over 52% of working women in the population. So there's like a blatant imbalance there. So that's one point. Then when it comes to people of color in Canada, in the urban centers, the population percentage is anywhere between 35% to 52 to 54%. So when you look at the commercial real estate space on the leadership side, on the senior leadership side, it's less than, I believe, 25%. So when we look at these stats and the imbalance there, what do you think is missing in the pipeline? Not to say that there's a silver bullet answer here, right? But based on your experience and your 10-year journey, what do you think it's missing from the framework within our industry? And what can leaders do to champion the importance of diversity and equity in the industry when it comes to gender and color?
I mean, that's a big question. Those are really sad statistics, and I think there's no question as an industry we need to do better, and we can do better. I will say that there's no question that part of my interest in starting my own company was driven by the fact that I didn't see many women in leadership roles within the companies that I'd worked at previously, and even at companies outside of the ones that I worked in, I didn't see many women in the most senior leadership positions, and it's discouraging. And I felt that, well, why not go out on my own and carve my own path then? I think that it really comes down to human nature, and in my opinion, human nature is that we tend to gravitate to things and people that are like us. And so it's really a requirement for people to push outside of their comfort zone and think about, well, what would happen if I hired someone that was
Not like me.
Not like me.
Yeah.
You know, someone who was not of the same sex as me, someone who's not of the same race as me, someone who perhaps is not of the same generation as me. What might happen? And I feel very fortunate that I grew up with a father who, he didn't teach me that 1 + 1 = 2. He taught me that 1 + 1 can equal 6 if you choose the right partner. And 1 + 1 does not equal 6 if you are choosing 2 ones that are exactly alike. You barely get to 2 in that case. I believe that if you choose, one person with a certain set of qualities and a certain set of strengths, and another person with possibly completely opposing sets of strengths and qualities, you can get a lot more than just 2 out of that equation. Obviously, when you're talking about people, not basic math. And that was very inspiring to me. And I think that leaders in commercial real estate need to consider that and look at what are the advantages that hiring different people in senior level positions that will share in the responsibilities of making decisions, share in the responsibilities of what path these companies will take. And my bet is that they will be pleasantly surprised. And I think that we are hopefully slowly seeing this evolution. I think part of it, though, is also understanding that if you're hiring people who aren't exactly like you, that the work environment needs to change and adapt to that as well. Growing up, my mom would say to me, I always knew that I wanted to become a mother and have a family. And my mom did encourage me at different stages through school to consider that in the career that I chose. And now, being the proud mother of 2 children, I really am not sure if I would have been able to be the mom that I've wanted to be to my children and the business professional that I strive to be in the corporate environment as it exists today. I think it's really important to have flexibility for those things and to understand that what might work for one gender, for one generation, for one culture or one race may not be exactly what may not exactly be the parameters that would allow for others to thrive and reach their potential in. So I think considering all of those things are really important.
That's amazing. I'm just fascinated by what you just said, because you truly hit the key elements in regards to where we as leaders need to pay attention to and look at the whole point of what the importance of diversity is. It's all about the differences, and then how do we actually include that in the framework of our business to create the equitable workplace.
Yeah.
Amazing. I love that. One last question. If you could time travel, right, and based on your exposure, your experience as a leader, as a influencer, what would you share with your younger self, given the information that you know today?
Oh,
That
geez.
one little golden nugget.
Gosh, I'm not sure how to answer that. Without sounding cliche, I
Yes.
think I would say to myself, don't sweat the small stuff. When I started Regent Street, I was, I had insecurities about whether or not I would be successful, could be successful, and I probably spent too much time dwelling on what might happen if I didn't achieve certain things, and that was wasted time. And I think that's probably, as cliche as it sounds, what I would have told myself.
Yeah, great. Vanessa, thank you so much for sharing, for leaving us with some key nuggets on how we as leaders, the next generation of leaders, can actually live our dreams, if we just believe in ourselves. So thank you so much.
My pleasure.
So to learn more about Informa Canada and our Real Leader series, please check out please check out our social media platform. And thank you again, Vanessa, for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.